My name is Joyce, and Rekha here. We are part of the CorpusCALL SIG group. So to just kind of tell you what EuroCall is and what we do. So EuroCall is an organization where we bring together researchers, practitioners, and developers who feel passionate about the use of technology for learning and teaching languages and culture. So we're not necessarily confined to Europe. We are global, but for the purpose of organization, we are part of the EuroCall. You can find us, there is an annual conference, and you can find all the information about it at www.eurocalllanguages.org, or you can just Google EuroCall conference 2023. It is this year, it's going to be held in Iceland at the University of Iceland, I believe mid-August for a couple of days. And within EuroCall, we have these different groups. We call them SIG groups, and they stand for special interest groups. So we, the CorpusCALL group is part of one of the special interest groups within the big umbrella of EuroCall group. And we are part of the Recall journal, the online journal EuroCall Review. You can find us on LinkedIn and also on Facebook group. The CorpusCALL SIG group, our aim is to promote the use of corpora in language teaching. So we want members to share information on applications of corpora in language learning and teaching. We also want everyone to take advantage of the international membership of EuroCall to share applications, informations on applications in as many languages and contexts as possible, to share some ideas, to work together on funded projects, and so forth. There is a membership fee to join the EuroCall, and once you join EuroCall, then you can join any of the special SIG groups. So to join, again, if you go to the EuroCall website, you would be able to join, and then you can also follow us on Twitter, CorpusCALL, CorpusCALL_SIG, or Facebook, CorpusCALL. So this is us. Like I said, I'm Joyce. We have Jasper, Secretary, Eva, our Communications Officer, Rekha, who's also here. Eva and Jasper are also here as well. Rekha is our Liaison Officer, and then Peter is our Ordinary Member. So today's seminar or webinar is delivered by Dr. Tanara and Dr. Rina, and they will be telling us about the crowdsourcing corpus filtering for a pedagogical purpose project, a fruitful partnership between computer science and linguistics. And Rekha here will be our moderator, so I'm going to be passing on to her.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Thank you for the introduction. A little bit of housekeeping before we actually start with the webinar. So be aware that we are recording this webinar, and this will be available on the YouTube channel of the CorpusCALL SIG. And I can see that we have already learned the nitty-gritties of webinars. Everybody is muted at the moment, but if you could keep yourself muted if you're not talking, that would help us avoid any distortions and interferences during the seminar. This seminar has been in the making for some while. We discussed it with Rina and Tanara already last year. So I'm really glad that we have this opportunity now. And the reason why I'm really interested in what you have to share with us is that in the CorpusCALL SIG, from time to time, we have some members who come from computer sciences, although the majority would come from an applied linguistics, language teaching, or education background. And working in corpus linguistics actually means to work together with professionals from a computer scientist background. So I thought your example, Rina and Tanara, is a successful example for this cooperation. And I'm really looking forward for the things that you would like to share about this successful cooperation. I think you will introduce yourself in detail during the presentation, so I won't take more of your time, but give the floor to you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen now. Just Do you see my slides? Yeah, perfect. So Rina, I think you can take over.
Yes. So we decided to start with explanation how we came to present here. So we first, we presented a paper at the EuroCall conference 2021, and the conference was online because of the COVID, but we also joined the CorpusCALL SIG meeting, which usually happens during EuroCall conference. And we started to talk about our cooperation and the papers that we presented. And actually, I joined this CorpusCALL SIG meeting because of Tanara, because she told me that she will be joining. So I told her I will join also. And we a little bit talked about our cooperation. And last year, during EuroCall 2022, actually, I was joining this SIG meeting, and Reka proposed, and I agreed and volunteered, both of us, me and Tanara, to give this talk about cooperation of computer scientists and people or scientists from different fields like computational linguistics or applied language learning. And what we will be talking here is actually not about the project we are doing right now, but we'll be talking about the collaboration between researchers from different fields. Currently, we will talk about corpus-based language learning and teaching and computer science, but we are definitely talking about cooperation of two different fields of science. And a lot of challenging items we will mention during the presentation, and miscommunications events. And also, we think, and we will advise or give several points, what we would like to advise everyone who would like to have a successful cooperation between people from different fields of research. Tanara, do you want to add something?
Yes, I'm just, because I'm changing the slides and I also need to unmute and mute myself, sorry. Yes, so in terms of objectives of our talk, the main idea is to share our experience here with you. So our project, as you mentioned already, Joyce, crowdsourcing corpus filtering for pedagogical purposes, has people from different areas. And we are going to focus today here on linguists and computer science. And our idea is, in terms of the project, is to develop a solution to create problem-labeled pedagogical corpora. As Rina said, we are not going to get into too much detail about the project. Of course, we're going to introduce the project, but our focus is on what kind of activities we've carried out to make this possible. So we are going to claim that one possible way to establish a fruitful partnership is when researchers from both areas are summoned to actively participate from the very origin of the project. So we're going to share our experience, how this happens in our case. We are also going to say that it's necessary that all members become familiar with unknown terms, learn about new topics, and acquire new skills. So we are also going to show you a little bit of how we organized the group, what kind of activities we've carried out that promoted this kind of learning in terms of learning new things and acquiring new skills. And also, we are going to show that this rewarding synergy enriches all the participants with new knowledge and research ideas. So we're going to focus a little bit on what particularly me and Rina, what we have learned, and also how the project evolved, given the fact that we had time to, well, we talked and we learned new things, so we had new research ideas. You'll see that the project started in a way and ended up being something much bigger. So we're going to show how this happened. The structure of our talk is as follows. We're going to start with a brief presentation of our backgrounds. Then we're going to talk about the origins of the project, how the project evolved, where we are now, and we're going to finish with a few main takeaways. So, Rina?
Yes, I will start with my background. So my name is Rina Zviel-Girshin, unpronounceable for anyone outside Israel. I'm a member of the Faculty of Engineering at the Rupin Academic Center in Israel. Rupin Academic Center is a small college where we have 2 campuses and around 5,000 students. I'm not a researcher, I'm a teacher and researcher. So in our academic center, we have to teach and to research to do both the activities. Meanwhile, I'm also head of software disciplines at the Faculty of Engineering. And my baby is actually, I'm the head of knowledge engineering and robotics lab. And this is I'm doing for more than 20 years voluntarily. And we develop smart systems. We are talking about crowdsourcing and the usage of crowdsourcing, educational system and language learning, robotics and educational robotics, and programming languages. And what is written that I'm not an NLP or computational linguistic person. And I came to this project without actually background in natural language processing or computational linguistic, which we would think is required, but in my case, I didn't have it.
Okay, let me take over now. So I'm Tanara Zingano Kuhn. I'm Brazilian, excuse me, but I live in Portugal. I work at the Center for the Studies of General and Applied Linguistics at the University of Coimbra, which is part of the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. I'm not a teacher, I'm a full-time researcher. And I work at these 2 working groups in our research center, which is lexicon and computational modeling, and this course in academic discursive practices. My main areas of interest are lexicography, corpus linguistics, crowdsourcing, Portuguese as an additional language, and academic Portuguese. I'm currently not teaching, but I used to teach Portuguese for foreigners. So I was a teacher at a university in South Korea and in the Netherlands and also in Brazil. So I'm very much interested in contributing to the area, even though I'm currently not in the classroom. And I'm also not an NLP person or a computer science person. I'm an applied linguist. So that's my area of expertise. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about the origins of the project. Not me, sorry. Rina will take over. Please, Rina.
Sorry, I was muted. We would like to present how we met, and we met during Inet Collect project, which is Cost Action. Cost Action is the European Cooperation of Science and Technology organization, which is a 4-year project where different countries and members of the countries are invited to join some kind of physical meetings to promote some ideas. In our case, we were talking about European network for combining language learning with crowdsourcing techniques. The action started in March 2017, and it was supposed to finish at October 2021, but because of the COVID, we finished later in March 2022. But during the last year, we actually didn't have any physical meetings, which is not so nice, because we do believe that physical meetings do promote cooperation. So in that collect, it was 40 countries and around 130 members joined this project. And actually, researchers that joined the action were from different fields, from NLP, language teachers, linguistics, computer science, business, lexicography. And I think it was very successful and interesting project because there was a lot of cooperation and studying and new things all the time, because someone was presenting something that other people didn't know from business point of view, from language teaching point of view, from tools that exist, and a lot of interesting ideas. Next slide, please. I will present the crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is a term where we use knowledge and skill of a large number of people to perform some task or to solve a problem that would take a lot of time, a long time, or would be very expensive if only one person would solve this task. So basically the idea or the term was coined in Wired journal paper of Jeff Howe in 2006, and he presented the idea. And currently we can talk about crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, a lot of crowd, because the idea is actually a very good idea. And now a lot of fields from chemistry to astronomy use crowdsourcing, and all the activities that you can bring to the large crowd to solve and to contribute to some kind of problem solving. So in language related areas, we have a lot of examples about translation. For example, NLP, Google Translate, and all the automatic tools, usually using some translated documents done or some translation done by people. And then we have some trainings that we teach neural network or something, but translation is one of the areas where we see a lot of crowdsourcing. Annotation of corpora is the additional topic, is very good topic. And creation of exercises for language learning is one, I think, of the most extended fields of crowdsourcing in language learning.
Yes, so I'm now going to talk a little bit about how we got to meet within InetCollect. So InetCollect created several opportunities for people to interact, and one of these actions is called a CrowdFest. So the first edition was in 2019. It was in Brussels, so at the headquarters of Cost Action, and people who had ideas needed to give a pitch about their ideas. So these ideas were called tasks. Let me show you here. In the previous year, in November, we had a working group 1 hands-on meeting. So that's another opportunity for people to interact. And during this meeting, I came up with an idea. And Peter Decker, an NLP guy, liked the idea, and together we proposed this task at the CrowdFest. So we gave a pitch, we talked about it, and we wanted to see if people wanted to join us. So at the time, our idea was crowdsourcing corpus cleaning for language learning purposes. Let me show you how I came up with this idea. You are all aware of SKELL, right? So sketch engine for language learning. It's a language learning tool that provides summaries of corpus data. It's a fantastic tool, yes. You can get examples, you can get word sketches, you can get similar words. And I always wanted to have a SKELL for Portuguese, right? Because we do have SKELLs for several languages, but we don't have for Portuguese. So I said, okay, what's needed, what's required if you want to have a SKELL for Portuguese? So you need a very large corpus. And I thought, okay, yes, we do have PT 1010, which is almost 4 billion words. It's a huge corpus. You also need the sketch grammar, which is actually the directives for the word sketched work. So it's something that goes in the background of the system. And I had devised a sketch grammar for my PhD. So we have a sketch grammar. And you also need a good X configuration. A good X configuration, good X stands for good dictionary examples. It's something that Kelgarif and colleagues created in 2008. And it's a function that sorts the sentences according to what it's considered to be the best ones. Of course, what's considered, you need some criteria. So you have a configuration and you have different classifiers, we call. So for instance, length of the sentence or occurrences of certain words. And then you have a score when you add up all that. And then the best sentences go appear first, and then the not so good ones go down the list. And you need that so that you can get the best examples to be shown on SKELL. And I also developed one during my PhD. So, okay, basically we have almost everything that's required for SKELL. However, for language learning tools with automatically created web data, further corpus filtering is required, because we can't forget that SKELL, it's for autonomous use, right? So there is no mediation of any teacher. So we should avoid offensive words or sensitive content, because we don't really know who that learner is. Yeah, so of course, when there is the mediation of the teacher, it's a different thing. But if there isn't, so I came up with this, like, okay, so how can we filter these offensive words or the sensitive content in the context if we want to do that with a 4 billion word corpus, right? And I said, okay, we could use crowdsourcing, right? And let me show you just an example here. So this is it's a very well-known example. In the SKELL, they have ravenously. So the second example, it's already something that I needed to omit because it was really, yeah. And then some people might also think that, well, maybe example 13, should it be there? Should it not? So just to show that even though it's automatically done and they use a blacklist and everything, sometimes things go past. So you need some human, like human beings having a look at that. And that was the objective of our task. So to create a crowdsourcing project to filter the corpus. So to filter the whole corpus and find a way to get rid of inappropriate sentences. So this is how it started. And our research question was, how can web corpora be filtered for language learning purposes using crowdsourcing? I gave that pitch in the CrowdFest in Brussels, and then Peter was already with me, and then Rina got interested, and also Branislava, also from NLP. So this is us, the initial team. We were working full-time during 2 days to come up with a methodology, and we did it. We came up with a methodology. We already started extracting some sentences, so it was really productive. What we want to suggest from this first part of our talk is that it is really nice if you can get involved in interdisciplinary initiatives, such as cost actions, but there are other actions, right? Because in our case, that was crucial. That was how we met. That also gave us funding to be able to meet. So we didn't get, this is very important because all of us participate in this voluntarily, right? So we are not being paid to do these projects. But as we were part of the Net Collect action, whenever there was a meeting or a crowd fest, we could go and meet in person. So this was a nice thing, to be involved in this action. So do try to get involved in this type of initiatives, because this is how we can get to know different people. Going on, we're going to talk a little bit about how the project evolved. So initially, there was this team in phase 1, so NLP, computer science, corpus linguistics, lexicography, language teaching. We had Dutch, Serbian, Portuguese, and also Slovene, because after that CrowdFest, we gave a presentation at the Net Collect annual meeting, and then more people became interested. So Slovene people came on board, and we had all these countries participating. So Portugal, I always include Brazil because even though I'm located in Portugal, but I'm Brazilian. So I'm also representing the Brazilian variety here. Slovenia, Netherlands, Israel, and Serbia. And our first, in the first phase, we worked with a PyBolsa experiment. So that was a traditional crowdsourcing experiment using a crowdsourcing platform, which is the PyBolsa. It was a multi-language experiment, so all the 4 languages that I mentioned, and we had always the same methodology. This is the methodology we started thinking about in Brussels, and we developed a little bit later, and we put it in practice. So you can see here, this is the landing page of the experiment. It was hosted at the Dutch center. And after this, we got some results, and we learned some important lessons from this experiment. So first of all, we learned that the crowd considered to be offensive sentences which, although not directly formulated as such, expressed cases of misogyny, religious offensive content, violence towards children, or it contains topics related to war and politics. So it was interesting to see that there was no no words showing that, but the whole idea of the sentence was related to those topics. So that brought us a bell, rang a bell. We were like, okay, we need to focus on something different. We need to make maybe a different question. We also noticed that sometimes explicitly rude contents were not considered inappropriate. And that's also important, because there you go. If you have a teacher can moderate, right? So that we don't, because if you simply say that we're not going to use offensive words whatsoever, well, let's leave this up to the teacher, right? They know their group, they know their backgrounds, and they know if it is relevant or not to their teaching. So it was interesting to see that these results supported our own understanding in our group that offensiveness and sensitivity are subjective, and that their expression through language involves mechanisms that go beyond the explicit use of swear words. So we needed to do something. How can we still use crowdsourcing and handle this understanding? So we also understood that crowdsourcing seems to be an adequate technique to deal with this topic, which is a contentious topic. But the PyBolsa crowdsourcing platform was considered unappealing by the participants. It was a bit boring, you know, this was the feedback. They said they didn't like it very much. So we said, okay, let's try a new approach. Let's try games with a purpose. And that was something that Rina actually always wanted us to do from the very beginning. When we started, Rina always had in the back of her mind, okay, let's do something with game. So Rina, you can say?
Yes, I will continue because I'm thinking we are already half an hour of our talk. So games with purposes. The idea is to design some fun to play game that actually collects some useful data that computers can't yet perform. And we didn't invent this term. This term is well known, but there is a lot of games with purpose for different purposes. So we decided to build a game with purpose for our task. So now, phase 2, we are designing CrowLL game. We are now 11, we had 11 members, but currently we continue with 7 members. We had new fields, computational linguistics people joined us, and we have Estonian language, and Estonia as a country joined the project. But after maternity leave, Serbia left the project because Branislava, after maternity leave, returned to the industry and not to academia. So currently we continue with only 4 languages. Tanara, next slide, please.
Yes. So very quickly, I just want to show what kind of activities we've carried out that promoted this kind of collaboration. We had these in-presence meetings, 3 in total, which is amazing because we've been doing this since 2019 and we only had 3 in-presence meetings. That was due to COVID, yeah, so all the year 2020. But anyway, we managed to get to meet online for 1 hour every week. So this is something that is really interesting because there are 7 of us and we all meet regularly. We presented papers at different conferences at different areas. So every time we have a different area, we need to focus and we need to learn a little bit about that different area. We, of course, got involved in paper writing. We have applied for funding. That's also a very interesting thing because you need to sit down and think about the project. And we applied for 2 fundings and we got 1 of them. So we are very happy. We got a virtual mobility grant also during the cost action. So it allowed us to do a very deep bibliographical review. And Rina?
Yes, and I asked Tanara to try to build proof of concept with my students at the Faculty of Engineering. And Tanara was a co-supervisor of their final project, which was actually a proof of concept of our game that we are designing now.
Yeah, so that's very nice because we started developing the game with the students, yes, and that was this, as Rina said, as a proof of concept. And now we have a programmer because we've got funding. So just very quickly to show, this is a little bit of our publication so far. We have a paper in print and some other stuff. It's going to be added later. But if we can leave a few suggestions, we would say, first of all members should participate in all meetings, even if the topic of that meeting is not related to their expertise. Yes, and Rina can talk a little bit about that. Yes, Rina?
Yes.
Yes, because sometimes when we're talking about data preparation, for instance, it's not exactly Rina's area, but she was always there. Get involved in various activities to promote its acquisition. So paper writing, conferences, application, and most importantly, be open to learn about new topics and acquire new skills. I would say that this is the most important thing. We can talk a little bit about the kind of new skills we learned. So I had to learn a little bit about server, virtual machine, cloud. Of course, I didn't become an expert, but I needed to become familiar with that. Game design, NLP tools and techniques. So this is all the kind of learning that I had to have in order to participate in this project. And Rina?
And I had to learn CorpusCALL, good configuration, because during the first meeting, I think for several hours, I didn't understand the word they were talking about. They were talking English, but I didn't understand. So it took me some time to learn and to understand all the terms and how it works. And also we are still learning NLP tools and techniques. And there is a lot of new tools and techniques all the time.
Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit, just where we are now. But Reka, please, Joyce, do interrupt if you need us to wrap up this sooner.
No, I think you can have a few.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think you're fine with time.
Okay, good. So the initial inspiration for the game, so the name of the game is Crowdsourcing for Language Learning. That was also nice because we had, remember, Rina, we all met and we had like brainstorming ideas for the name, and then we had a vote. So it was really nice, everybody coming together with this. So the creating the game is really, it's really nice. It's really creative and all people give ideas. And the initial inspiration actually came from me. I knew about this matching game. I learned about it, actually. I was researching about games. It's also from Hacker and Anne. Luis von Ahn is the guy who created Duolingo. So you probably know him. He's very much involved with WAPs. And the matching game is this one. It's about asking the opponent about the image that you think the partner will prefer. So which image do you think a partner will prefer? This one or that one? And I thought, maybe we could ask about example, instead of image. And then we said, okay, guess what your partner will choose for teaching English? So this one, that one, but then we added something else. So maybe none of them, or maybe both of them. So that was the initial inspiration, but from there, we created other ideas. Rina.
So we continued with the game design, and I think each week we had more and more questions. Instead of more solutions, we had a large list of questions. So we decided to design single player mode game currently, but we will later design dual player mode, but asynchronous dual mode, because we don't think that we will have a lot of people playing the game. So synchronous mode is not applicable to our case. And we have 3 different levels of the games that we will explain in next slide. And you can start all at one level and continue to the next level, or do it as a cycle, or you can continue with the same level all the time. So level 1, we have identification just to decide if the sentence is appropriate or not, the screen that we saw before. Then we added a more smart system for categorization and labeling the sentences from spelling problems or offensiveness. And level 3, we also would like our crowd to mark the parts that they think that are problematic. So the original design you can see here, developed by my students, and it was good, and they made some gamification, but after the year finished, they finished the project. And now we got the funding, and Tanara will continue with.
Yes, so now we have, this is the landing page of our demo. I'm not going to show you the demo today because it's still being devised. So we still have a lot of some kind of placeholders or, so it's not ready to be shown, but it will be ready to be published soon. As you said, level 1, it's this one. So they identify the sentence. Then in level 2, we ask, why not this one? So the sentence that was not chosen, why not this one? And people have to choose why, one of these categories. Just to let you know, for instance, the decision to keep 5 categories, this is due to some studies that show that we should avoid psychological overload. So it's not interesting to have a very long list of categories. That's why we had to conflate. Of course, if we wanted to go into details, we can, have a huge hierarchy of offensiveness and all of this, but we can't. In terms of game, it doesn't work. So we stayed with 5. And then after this level 2, level 3, we say, okay, so tap or click where the problem is. And then the problem was chosen sensitive content, for instance, so they need to show exactly the part. That's what I was telling about this being a demo. We still have here home dot, okay, so this is something for the demo. But we just wanted to show you that particularly level 2 and level 3 are meant not only for teachers to use this corpus and have these labels, but also for NLP purposes, because our next stage is about using machine learning to automatically identify sentences and also grow our corpus. So we need to have as much fine-grained detail as possible. Going on, our game is to be launched now in this first semester. So we are almost done with the demo, and then we're going to test a little bit and then make it public. If you go to CrowLL.org, you will be redirected to our web page, and this is where the game will be hosted. In terms of outputs, we are going to have from the game problem annotated corpora of Dutch, Estonian, Slovene, and Brazilian Portuguese. And this is also something important to mention. No texts are excluded from the corpus. Instead, examples are labeled so that teachers, lexicographers, material developers can choose what they want. So that was our idea from the beginning. No exclusion, but labeling, and let people choose. And we also have a data sets of 10,000 manually annotated sentences for each one of these languages. These will be available at the Clearing repository sometime about July, because this is when our financing finishes. Okay, so we got funding from Clearing Resource Families Project funding, and we are going to make this data set available there. We do have a web page where you can learn a little bit about our project and where the game will be hosted. And you can see our publications, and you can also meet our team members. So you can see here our current members. So from Portugal, the Netherlands, yes, Anna, Carol, Istok, Christina from Estonia, Istok from Slovenia, Rina, Spela from Slovenia as well, and myself. And then we also included our former members because they were always very important at different moments of the project, and they all had to leave due to different reasons, but they are very important to us. And to finish, we just want to give you some few suggestions, if we may. Again, try to get involved in interdisciplinary initiatives, such as cost actions, but not only, there are several. Try to promote regular meetings in which all members participate, even if the meeting is not directly related to their expertise. Actively participate in conferences of different areas and write papers together. If possible, submit funding application in a broad area. So whenever the area is, you'll need to focus more on something, and that requires a lot of thinking and reevaluation and studying. So it's a very good exercise. And always be open to learn about new topics and acquire new skills. These are a few references just to give you some general idea if you want to know a little bit more about crowdsourcing or about WARP or about our work. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tanara and Rina.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
I fear that we got like 2 in 1, because you did speak about cooperation between people from different backgrounds, but we also got to learn about how to develop this kind of pedagogic corpora with the help of crowdsourcing. So that was great. So yeah, let's continue with some questions from the audience. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat, or just speak up with your microphones. I did see a question about what is crowdsourcing, and I did see Rina has responded in the chat, but maybe if you could outline the basics a little bit more with speaking up.
I think the idea is to use crowd to solve some task. And usually we are talking the task that or takes a lot of time to solve or takes a lot of money to solve. So sometimes the purpose of crowdsourcing can be different. Sometimes it's a large task, so we need a huge team, so we go to the crowd. And sometimes we don't have enough budget to solve the task, so we go to the crowd to ask to contribute in some voluntarily base. But also different definition can be given. Now we're also talking about motivated crowd, not all crowd with a special background. So it's an interesting topic, and I think it's still relatively new. So a lot of people thinking or talking about different stuff, but basically it's a use crowd to solve some task.
Mm-hmm. And one important thing, Rina, just to add, some people, especially in business, for instance, they do pay for those crowdsourcers. They are called micropayments because they are performing micro tasks. And there is a huge also discussion on the ethics behind that. And this is also something that has been discussed in VNet Collect Action. Yes, Rina, remember? Mm-hmm. So some people do it voluntarily, some people do it because they're being paid. In our case, it should always be voluntarily, as we don't pay for people to do that. We ask them to contribute to something that can return to the society. So we want to use this motivation that Rina was talking about. So people wanting to contribute to something larger or to feel psychologically satisfied to do something important to society in general.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think the last question is probably for Tanara on chat.
Sorry, I didn't see.
There is another question in the chat. Do you find having so many people all working on the same project difficult to manage? Or is there a lot of headbutting, or do you all work together harmoniously?
Well, I have to say, I don't find it difficult to manage at all. And we don't have any kind of headbutting whatsoever. We work together harmoniously. And I think maybe we were lucky. I don't know, because the kind of people, I would say that one of the things is the project started with, I came up with one idea, so it was me alone, and then someone got interested, and then someone else got interested, and then someone else. So I think everyone who participated in the project and are still participating always wanted to be there. It was not me inviting someone or asking, like, please, could you collaborate? I'm doing this. It was like always voluntary, like people who really believed in the project. So I think that's a big difference here. That's why we don't have, it's harmonious, because everyone who's there is there just because they want to be. As we said again, no one's being paid for that. And that's a lot of work that we've been doing, and successfully, I would say, for a long time. And I would say that this is, it's not really difficult to manage, but I think it's because of the characteristics of the group. I think everyone is really, really nice and really enthusiastic. I don't know, Rina, if you want to add.
And I think also Tanara is managing it relatively good. She's we are not always able to join the meeting. So Tanara keeps notes of the meetings, minutes.
Mhm.
So each time we miss the meeting, we do know what happened there. And usually people don't miss more than 1 week or 2 weeks. So basically we're all staying in touch all the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We do have a Google Drive folder where we share everything, so everybody knows everything about, and we keep these notes like while we are talking in the meeting, I'm taking notes. So everybody knows that if they need anything, just go there to have a look. But yeah, it's been working very well. We had a point where we had 11 people, and that was working well as well. So yeah, we're lucky to have a nice group.
Mhm.
I think I see some hands. Yes.
Yes. I think Je was first, and I also can see Mohammed. So Je, maybe you could start, and then Mohammed second with the question.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to asking, do you think how many people in a group is appropriate? Too many people may be difficult to manage, right? How many people is suitable?
I wouldn't know exactly. I would say that that's a good question, but I would say that you need to feel, like how much you're having and how much contribution you are doing. We also understand, of course, that at some period, some people can contribute more, some people will have to contribute less. So for instance, in our case, last semester, one of our members was assigned classes exactly at the same time of our meeting. So of course, she can't participate in our meetings, but she tried, so she's contributing a little bit less now. I would say we went up to 11 people, and that was still manageable. I don't know how much larger that would, if that would work. But one of the things is that we really ask members to participate, so they know that it's not just being a member of the group. You really do things, and you come to meetings, and you contribute, and you do your part. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think Mohammed, your question?
Hi, thank you, Rina and Tanara. Wonderful presentation. And I would like to ask you about the cleaning, filtering process. You were doing, I saw a small number of team only. And were you doing manually, or you develop sort of tools to do, because you are dealing with millions of words, or maybe billions of words. So how you did your cleanup filtering process?
Rina, can I answer?
Tanara, yes, you can answer.
Yes. So that's the whole idea. That's the purpose of the game. So we are going to ask the crowd to do this filtering for us. So we're going to ask the crowd to identify the sentences, to say if they are problematic or not, and what kind of categories. And then we are going to keep the labels for all those examples. So we are not doing this manually. We are asking the crowd to, you're talking about the data sets of the 10,000 data sets? No.
No, data, complete data. You were finding some offensive words or inappropriate words.
This is what we want to know from the crowd. So we are going to ask the crowd to do that for us. And of course, then we're going to use a system of, that's why crowdsourcing. So in our case, it is a crowd rating type, which means that we need to see all the votes. So we need to get a majority of votes to define if that sentence is problematic or not. And then we will decide, we will have the data filtered. So it will be the crowds that will do that for us. Yes.
Tanara, do you want to mention gray list, that we already extract sentences that we suspect that can be not good?
Exactly, yeah. So in the methodology for data preparation, we have created different ideas. So in the first experiment, we used one methodology. We separated good and bad sentences. according to the system. So what the system says is good and what the system says is bad. And we ask the crowd to evaluate those sentences. And that's when we got to know that, well, sometimes the system said bad, but the crowd said good. Sometimes the system says good and the crowd says bad. So that's the problem, what's happening. In this new methodology that we're going to use for the game, we are going to use good X sentences. So we are going to use the top sentences with the higher score. We're going to consider them, we think they will be a little bit better in terms of appropriate for pedagogical purposes. In the middle area, in terms of the score, we will be uncertain. And then the ones in the bottom, we think that they may not be that good. But we are going to ask the crowd to confirm if that's going to happen or not. So this is just something that we think, but we cannot really confirm. We need the crowd to show us.
Great, thank
Thank you so much.
Are there any more burning questions? So we've got maybe 2 minutes left. So if not, then I would like to thank again Rina and Tanara for sharing this really interesting project. And I think I'm hoping that we will see a couple of more of these kind of projects in corpus linguistics and in the CorpusCALL SIG. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences, and thank you everybody for coming along today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
inviting
much,
us.
Rina and
Yeah.
Tanara. Yeah, really interesting project. And it's still evolving, right? So I'm excited to see what will come out of this project as you start adding more people and perhaps more